The ancient stone crumbled under Dr. Amara Okonkwo's gloved fingers as she carefully brushed away 10,000 cycles of dust. The ruins on Terrales 9 had been calling to her for months, ever since orbital scans detected structures that predated any known galactic civilization. Her research team had established a small camp among the weathered pillars, each day revealing more questions than answers. "Doctor, you need to see this." Killer's voice carried an unusual tremor. The young Methrian had been cataloging inscriptions in the Eastern Vault, tedious work that suited his meticulous nature. Amara climbed down from her scaffold and followed him through narrow passages carved into blue-gray rock. The vault's entrance had resisted their efforts for 3 weeks before finally yielding to careful excavation. Inside, preservation fields still hummed with faint energy, protecting whatever lay within from time's erosion. Killer stood before a crystalline display panel, his four-fingered hands hovering uncertainly over the controls. "What am I looking at?" Amara asked, moving closer. "Battle records." Killer's usual calm demeanor had vanished. "Detailed tactical analyses, casualty reports, strategic assessments. This vault is a military archive." Amara activated her translation matrix and began parsing the alien script. Her breath caught as the words resolved into meaning. The records spoke of a war that had consumed this region of space, a conflict between the Harvester swarms and something called the Returned Ones. She had heard whispers of the Harvesters in archaeological circles, ancient bogeymen that supposedly devoured worlds before vanishing into myth. These Returned Ones, Killer was reading over her shoulder. The records described them as having no natural armor, no energy manipulation abilities, no advanced sensory organs. How did they fight? Amara scrolled through the data, fascinated. With adaptation, look at this tactical analysis. They studied Harvester behavior patterns, identified weaknesses, exploited psychological vulnerabilities. They fought with intelligence rather than raw power. "It says here they called themselves humans." Killer's voice dropped to a whisper. "Doctor, humans are myths. Every species has legends about the vanished warriors who saved the galaxy, but there's no evidence they actually existed." The archive proved otherwise. Amara spent hours downloading data, her hands shaking with excitement. Here was proof that humanity had been real, had fought and bled across dozens of worlds. The final entries described a last stand at the Crucible Nebula, where human forces had somehow driven the Harvesters into retreat. Then nothing. The archive simply ended. 3 days later, emergency transmissions began flooding their camp's communication array. Amara listened in growing horror as colony after colony reported attacks. The descriptions matched the archive's accounts of Harvester vessels, massive bioships that ignored conventional weapons, swarms of smaller craft that moved with insected precision. "They've returned." Killer's face had gone pale, his skin losing its natural lavender hue. "After 10,000 cycles, the Harvesters have come back." The Galactic Council convened in emergency session. Amara watched the proceedings via holofeed, her stomach churning as she witnessed the galaxy's most powerful leaders descend into panic. General Thexus of the Cortani Empire presented their military assessment. 3 colony worlds had gone silent. Modern weapons barely scratched Harvester bioarmor. The defense fleets were dying. "We need the human tactical data." Amara stood before the council 3 days later, her voice steady despite her fear. "The archive on Terrales 9 contains detailed strategies, behavioral analyses, proven methods for fighting the Harvesters." Council Speaker Vorna's expression remained skeptical. "You're suggesting we base our defense on legends and children's stories." "I'm suggesting we use documented military intelligence from the only species that ever defeated this enemy." Amara projected holographic images of the archive. "Humans weren't myths. They were real, and they understood the Harvesters better than we do." The debate raged for hours. Most counselors dismissed her findings, too proud to admit their civilization might need help from extinct warriors. But Ambassador Wren of the Outer Reaches spoke quietly from his corner seat. "We've detected unusual signals." His ancient face creased with thought. Near the former human territories, in the region we call the Dead Belt. Our long-range probes recorded them 6 months ago, but we assumed they were natural phenomena. Amara felt her pulse quicken. What kind of signals? Encrypted communications. Power signatures consistent with orbital defense platforms. We dismissed it because the Dead Belt has been quarantined for millennia. Ren's eyes met hers. No one goes there. The radiation levels are supposedly lethal. She assembled a small exploration team within hours. The council reluctantly approved, more interested in their debate than her expedition. Killer insisted on joining, his scientific curiosity overcoming his species' natural caution. Their ship, a converted survey vessel named the Wanderer, set course for the Dead Belt. The journey took 8 days. As they approached the quarantined zone, their sensors began detecting anomalies. Massive structures orbited a blue-green world, their configuration suggesting defensive positions. The radiation readings that had kept the galaxy away for centuries showed as nothing more than clever interference patterns. Those aren't natural formations. Their pilot, a gruff Valesian named Kresh, studied his instruments with growing concern. Those are weapons platforms, active weapons platforms. The structures powered up, energy signatures blazing across their detection grid. A transmission cut through the static, crisp and clear despite the distance. Unknown vessels, state your purpose or turn back. The voice spoke perfect galactic standard, but the accent was like nothing Amara had ever heard. Ancient, precise, carrying an edge of barely restrained authority. Killer's hands trembled on the communication controls. Should I respond? Before Amara could answer, their threat indicators screamed warnings. 3 Harvester scout ships had followed them, decloaking just outside weapons range. The vessels began maneuvering toward the Wanderer, their biohulls pulsing with hostile intent. The human platforms detected both ships simultaneously. The transmission changed, taking on a different tone. You're being hunted, we can see them. Do you require assistance? Amara looked at her crew, at Killer's frightened eyes, at Kresh's warrior instincts warring with his fear. The legends had been real all along. Humanity hadn't vanished. They had been here, watching, waiting. Yes, she transmitted back. We need your help. 6 human interceptors launched from the orbital platforms with precision that made Kresh whistle in admiration. The sleek vessels moved like predators, their approach vectors calculated to cut off the Harvester scouts before they could close on the Wanderer. Amara watched through the viewport as trails of accelerated plasma cut through space, each shot finding its mark with uncanny accuracy. The Harvester scouts never stood a chance. Within 90 seconds, all 3 vessels were tumbling wrecks, their biohulls breached and venting atmosphere. The human interceptors formed an escort pattern around the Wanderer, their weapons still hot but pointing safely away. Follow our trajectory, the transmission resumed, now accompanied by navigation coordinates. We're bringing you to a safe anchorage. Maintain your current speed and don't deviate from the flight path. Their escort guided them toward the blue-green world, past defensive grids that could have reduced their ship to atoms. As they descended through the upper atmosphere, Amara glimpsed cities below, massive urban centers connected by transport networks. This wasn't a hidden outpost or secret base. This was a thriving civilization. The landing platform was utilitarian, all function and no decoration. A single ship waited for them, smaller than the Wanderer but radiating controlled power. Its hull bore scars from countless engagements, repaired but not hidden. As the Wanderer settled onto the pad, a boarding ramp extended from the scarred vessel. Captain Diana Ross stood at the ramp's base, flanked by 2 crew members in combat-ready positions. She was shorter than Amara expected, her dark hair streaked with gray, her face lined with years of command decisions. Her eyes swept over the visitors with professional assessment, missing nothing. Dr. Okonkwo, Ross's voice matched the transmission they'd received. I'm Captain Ross of the United Human Space Forces frigate Resilience. Welcome to Earth. Earth, the word sent shivers down Amara's spine. the human homeworld, birthplace of the legends, supposedly destroyed in the ancient war. Yet here it stood, alive and protected. "You've been monitoring us," Amara found her voice. "How long?" "Since your ship entered the dead belt's outer markers," Ross gestured toward her vessel. "We monitor everything within 50 light-years of this system. We've been watching the Harvester incursion into galactic space for the past 3 months. Your archaeological discovery on Terrales 9 was noted with interest." Killer stepped forward, his scientific curiosity overwhelming his nervousness. The radiation readings that kept the galaxy away, they were false. "Deliberate camouflage," Ross allowed a slight smile. "We wanted isolation while we rebuilt. The galaxy forgot about us quickly enough. 10,000 cycles is a long time for most species' historical memory." The tour of the Resilience revealed a ship built for war. Every corridor served a tactical purpose, every system designed for reliability under combat stress. Training rooms ran constant drills. Crew members moved with the confidence of people who knew their jobs perfectly. This wasn't a ship. This was a weapon that happened to carry people. "Your entire civilization is like this," Killer observed as they passed a classroom where human children practiced tactical scenarios alongside mathematics. "We learned hard lessons during the last war." Ross led them to the strategic center, where holographic displays showed harvester movements across known space. "We lost billions. Earth herself nearly fell. We swore we would never be helpless again." The displays showed meticulous detail. Harvester fleet compositions, behavioral patterns, predicted movement vectors. Humanity had been watching, analyzing, preparing. Amara realized they probably knew more about the current Harvester threat than the entire Galactic Council. "Why didn't you warn us?" The question came out harsher than Amara intended. "You've been watching them build up their forces. You could have given us time to prepare." Ross's expression hardened. "We tried that last time. We shared our intelligence, coordinated joint operations, fought beside species we just met. When the war ended, those same species turned on each other. Political alliances shifted. Some factions wanted human technology, others feared human military capability. We nearly destroyed ourselves fighting wars that weren't ours." "So you hid." Killer's voice carried no judgment, only curiosity. "We survived," Ross corrected. "There's a difference. We're 30 billion people across 12 worlds. The galaxy has trillions. If we commit to this fight, we risk everything again." Amara felt frustration building. "Those trillions are dying right now. 5 billion people live on Sanctuary Prime alone. The Harvesters will reach it in 48 hours. Your choice is to help or to watch genocide unfold." The strategic center fell silent. Ross's crew exchanged glances, some angry, some conflicted. First Officer Ben Wright, a tall man with burned scars on his hands, spoke quietly. "Captain, we didn't rebuild our civilization just to hide behind our walls. My great-grandfather fought at the Crucible Nebula. He didn't sacrifice himself so we could become cowards." "We're not cowards," Chief Engineer Rachel Kim countered. "We're cautious. There's wisdom in protecting what we've rebuilt." "Is there?" Wright pulled up footage of the destroyed colonies. "Because I'm looking at the same tactics the Harvesters used against our ancestors. If we don't act, we're watching history repeat itself." Ross stared at the tactical displays for long minutes. Amara could see the weight of command in every line of her face. This woman had probably sent people to die before. The decision showed in her eyes. "I'm recommending limited intervention to Earth Command," Ross spoke carefully. "We'll provide tactical expertise and special forces support, but the galaxy has to contribute ships and troops. We won't fight this war alone." "They'll need training." Wright's objection was immediate. "Modern forces don't know how to fight Harvesters." "Then we teach them." Ross turned to Amara. "Starting with Sanctuary Prime, Doctor, can you convince the Galactic Council to accept human command authority?" Amara thought about the prideful counselors, the political maneuvering, the bureaucratic delays. "I can try." "Try fast," Ross pointed at the chronometer. Because whether Earth Command approves or not, I'm taking the Resilience to Sanctuary Prime. Those people need help now, not after the politicians finish debating. The captain's eyes found each crew member. Anyone who wants to transfer off before we deploy, no judgment. This isn't an official mission. No one moved. Wright actually smiled. Guess you're stuck with us, Captain. Ross nodded, something like pride crossing her features. Helm, set course for Sanctuary Prime, maximum speed. Let's go remind the galaxy what humans actually are. Sanctuary Prime burned beneath a sky filled with death. Admiral Krentha watched his defense fleet crumble under the Harvester assault, each lost ship taking hundreds of lives with it. The Velesian commander had led fleets for 30 cycles, won battles across a dozen systems, but nothing in his experience prepared him for this enemy. Sir, another wing is down, his tactical officer's voice cracked with stress. That's 47 ships destroyed in 20 minutes. Krentha studied the battle display, searching for some tactical advantage that didn't exist. The Harvesters fought like insects, their bioships clustering for mutual support, their weapons tearing through modern shields as if they weren't there. Every doctrine he knew, every strategy he'd learned, proved useless. Admiral, incoming transmission. Communications looked relieved to have any distraction from the massacre. Single vessel approaching from the outer system. They're requesting tactical command authority. One ship, Krentha's laugh was bitter. What can one ship accomplish when I've lost 47? The vessel appeared on his scopes, significantly smaller than his flagship. Its design was unfamiliar, sleek where modern ships were bulky, efficient where they were ornate. The power signature suggested capabilities far beyond its size. This is Captain Diana Ross of the United Human Space Forces frigate Resilience. The transmission carried absolute confidence. Admiral Krentha, I have tactical solutions for your current engagement. I need complete fleet authority and immediate implementation of my orders. Human, Krentha had heard the legends like everyone else. Impossible, humans have been extinct for millennia. Clearly not, Ross's response was dry. You're losing another ship every 90 seconds. In 10 minutes, you'll have lost enough vessels that retreat becomes impossible. Give me command or watch your fleet die. Your choice, Admiral. Krentha looked at his dying fleet, at the Harvester swarms descending toward Sanctuary Prime cities. Pride was a luxury he couldn't afford. What do you need? Listen carefully and implement immediately. Ross transmitted tactical packages to every ship in the fleet. Harvester bioships cluster for mutual support. Their neural networks link for coordinated fire. This makes them powerful but predictable. Stop trying to punch through their hulls. Target the communication nodes on their exterior surfaces. Those nodes are small, Krentha protested. Precision targeting while under fire is nearly impossible. For you, maybe. The Resilience dove into the battle, its weapons tracking with inhuman accuracy. Every shot struck a communication node, each impact disrupting Harvester coordination. Your gunners are aiming at center mass because that's standard doctrine. I need them targeting weak points. Break your fleet into hunter groups of 4 ships each. Use the tactical formations I've transmitted. Krentha gave the orders, watching skeptically as is organized. Battle line dissolved into smaller units. The Resilience led one group, demonstrating the technique. 4 ships working in concert, each targeting different nodes on a single Harvester vessel. When the nodes failed, the bioship lost coordination with its neighbors, becoming isolated and vulnerable. It's working, his tactical officer sounded amazed. The Harvester formations are breaking apart. Maintain pressure, Ross's voice cut through the command channel. Don't let them regroup. Isolated Harvester ships are confused and aggressive. They'll start firing on each other if you position correctly. The battle transformed. Instead of dying slowly, Krentha's fleet began taking down Harvester vessels. The coordination Ross described proved accurate. Confused bioships turned their weapons on nearby friendlies, creating cascading chaos through the enemy formation. Captain Ross, Krentha allowed himself hope for the first time in hours. What about the landing forces? Harvester drop pods have already deployed to the surface. Already handled, Ross's response was clipped. My first officer is dealing with that. Ben Wright led 40 human Marines through Sanctuary Prime's devastated streets, their weapons spitting kinetic rounds into Harvester warrior forms. The creatures were massive, their bioarmor thick enough to stop most energy weapons, their claws sharp enough to tear through reinforced barriers. Kinetics punch through, Wright shouted over the weapon's fire. Energy rifles just make them mad, aim for the joints where the armor plates meet. Killer ran behind the Marines, his scanner reading Harvester biological signatures. The young Methrian had insisted on joining the ground operation despite having no combat training. Rachel Kim had assigned him to technical support, figuring his scientific knowledge might prove useful. Lieutenant Wright, Killer's voice shook but held steady. These warrior forms are being coordinated from a central spawning chamber. If we disrupt the command organism, the individual warriors will lose cohesion. Where? Wright's question was immediate. The largest drop pod, 3 blocks north. Killer highlighted the location on their tactical display. The biological signature is different from the others, more complex neural activity. Wright diverted his team, pushing through streets filled with fleeing civilians and scattered defense forces. The spawning chamber loomed ahead, a massive organic structure that pulsed with alien life. Harvester warriors defended it in coordinated patterns, their movements synchronized. Resonance charges, Wright ordered. Kim's special recipe, plant them around the base, we detonate simultaneously. The charges emitted frequencies that disrupted Harvester neural pathways. When all 40 detonated together, the effect cascaded through the spawning chamber. Every warrior form in a 6-block radius stopped coordinating. They turned on each other, confused and aggressive, their biological imperatives overriding tactical sense. The spawning chamber tore itself apart from internal conflict. Wright watched dispassionately, having seen this tactic work on training simulations 100 times. Ground forces neutralized, he transmitted to the Resilience. Local defense can handle the cleanup. In orbit, the last Harvester vessels broke formation and fled. Krentha's remaining ships pursued, but Ross called them back. Let them run, her voice carried hard-won experience. Running Harvesters spread fear among their kind. Fear is useful. The battle ended. Sanctuary Prime had lost 3 cities and 200,000 civilians. Krentha's fleet was reduced to 93 functional vessels from the original 200. But they had won. Against Harvesters, they had actually won. Captain Ross, Krentha's transmission was formal. On behalf of Sanctuary Prime and the Valesian Defense Forces, you have my gratitude. How did your people learn to fight like this? Practice, Ross's answer was grim. Lots of very expensive practice. Admiral, this is just the beginning. The Harvesters are regrouping. They'll come back stronger, smarter, more prepared. Your people need training. Will you teach us? Ross looked at her damaged ship, at her exhausted crew, at the 7 colony worlds showing Harvester activity on her tactical display. Yes, she finally answered, but we're going to need more ships. The Resilience limped through 3 systems, teaching as it went. Captain Ross stood before hostile commanders and prideful admirals, showing them how their ancestors had died fighting an enemy they didn't understand. Some listened, many didn't. All of them learned when the Harvesters came. Commander Tyrell of the Cortani Defense Force spat on the deck when Ross finished her tactical briefing. The massive warrior's scales rippled with barely. Contained aggression. Humans presumed to teach the Cortani how to wage war. His voice resonated with ancestral pride. My people have fought for 10,000 cycles. We need no instruction from extinct legends. Ross didn't argue. She'd learned that demonstrations convinced better than words. Instead, she took 3 volunteers from Tyrell's fleet, spent 2 hours drilling them on node targeting and hunter tactics, then positioned them against a Harvester blockade holding Kestro's colony. Tyrell watched from his flagship as the 3 ships executed Ross's strategies. They moved in coordinated patterns, targeting communication nodes, exploiting harvester behavioral predictability. Within an hour, they'd broken a blockade that had withstood 2 weeks of conventional assault. How Tyrell's question came through clenched teeth. "Because I'm teaching tactics, not pride," Ross replied evenly. "Your warriors are brave. Bravery without knowledge is just suicide. Which do you prefer?" Tyrell committed his entire fleet to human training the next day. Planet by planet, the network spread. Krentha brought his Velesian forces. Tyrell added Cortani heavy cruisers. Smaller species contributed what they could. Killer became an unexpected asset, his Methrian ability to understand biological systems helping crews identify harvester weak points faster. "You're building an army," Amara observed, watching mixed species crews drill together. "I'm building survivors," Ross corrected. "The real Earth fleet won't arrive for another week. Until then, we're all these people have." On Earth, the political debate raged. Counselor Patricia Hayes led the isolationist faction, her arguments sharp and well-reasoned. "We lost 12 billion people in the last war," she reminded the assembly. 12 billion humans who died protecting aliens who later turned on us. Captain Ross has already lost 17 crew fighting for strangers. How many more must die before we remember the lessons of history? General Aaron Stone stood in opposition, his military bearing evident in every word. "We didn't rebuild our civilization just to hide," his voice carried across the chamber. "We rebuilt so we'd never be helpless again. There's a difference between cautious and cowardly. Right now, we're crossing that line." The vote remained deadlocked. Earth Command authorized the expeditionary fleet but gave Ross no additional support. She was alone except for the forces she'd trained. Then the Nexus bioship appeared. Long-range sensors detected it first, a harvester vessel 3 times larger than any previously recorded. It moved through space with purpose, coordinating 6 separate harvester fleets with unprecedented precision. Wherever it went, harvester tactics improved, adapted, learned. "They've never shown this level of strategic intelligence before." Rachel Kim studied the readings. "This thing is thinking, planning, anticipating our moves." Ross watched the Nexus bioship position itself near Forge Haven, the industrial hub that produced 40% of the galaxy's ship components. If that world fell, the war was lost. "We're moving to intercept." Her announcement met silence from the crew. They all knew the odds. "Captain," Wright spoke carefully, "the resilience is still damaged from Sanctuary Prime. We're running on 70% capacity. Against that thing, we won't last 10 minutes. "I know," Ross pulled up the tactical display. "That's why we're not fighting alone." Krentha arrived with 30 Velesian warships. Tyrell brought 50 Cortani heavy cruisers. Smaller contingents from a dozen species added their strength. For the first time in recorded history, the galaxy fought as one force under unified command. "This is it," Ross addressed the combined fleet. "The Nexus bioship is their command vessel. Kill it, and we break their coordination across this entire sector. But it's heavily defended and it's smart. This will cost us." The battle began badly. Harvester defenses proved more sophisticated than expected. The Nexus bioship's weapons cut through shields with terrifying efficiency. Ships died, their crews screaming final defiance across open channels. "We need to board it," Killer's voice cut through the chaos. "My analysis shows the Nexus has a biological control center. If we can introduce a neural disruption agent directly into its core, it will cascade through every connected harvester." "That's a suicide mission," Kim protested. Yes, Killer's calm acceptance silenced objections. "It is." Wright assembled a boarding team of 20 volunteers. Humans, Velesians, Cortani, even 3 Methrians who'd learned combat from human instructors. They launched in stealth pods while the fleet created a diversion. Inside the Nexus bioship, Wright's team fought through organic corridors that pulsed with alien life. They found the control center deep in the vessel's core, a massive chamber filled with neural tissue and integrated technology. That's impossible. Wright studied the technology. Those are human neural patterns. The Nexus is using our own consciousness against us. Ancient human minds, captured during the last war, their knowledge twisted into weapons. They'd been coordinating the harvesters, teaching them human tactics, making them smarter. The Nexus wasn't just a bioship. It was a prison. We have to free them. Wright planted the neural cascade device. Kim, the trigger needs manual activation. Someone has to stay behind. I will. Killer stepped forward. Methrian neural tissue is compatible with harvester systems. I can interface with the captured humans, guide the cascade, give them peace. Wright wanted to argue, but the young scientist's eyes held absolute certainty. Make it count, was all he said. Killer connected to the Nexus neural network and felt the ancient human's agony. 10,000 cycles of imprisonment, their minds used as tools by the enemy they died fighting. He showed them memories of modern Earth, of humanity alive and protecting others again. The ancient consciousness understood. With their final act, they helped Killer activate the cascade. The Nexus bioship screamed as its neural network collapsed. Every connected harvester vessel lost coordination simultaneously. They turned on each other, reverting to mindless aggression. Wright's team evacuated as the structure fell apart. Kim piloted through impossible conditions, extracting everyone except Killer. He remained at the neural interface, guiding the cascade to completion. Thank you, the young Methrian's final transmission was calm. Tell my people that peace requires protectors. The Nexus exploded. 6 harvester fleets descended into chaos. The combined galactic forces systematically destroyed the disorganized swarm. Victory came at terrible cost. Ross stood on her bridge watching casualty reports scroll past. 47 Allied ships destroyed, 12,000 personnel dead. The Resilience had taken critical damage, but the harvester threat was broken. Captain, communications sounded odd. We're receiving transmissions from Earth. The expeditionary fleet has been authorized. 300 ships are en route. Ross looked at her exhausted crew, at the mixed species survivors celebrating. Together, tell them to hurry, she said quietly. We have rebuilding to do. 6 months after the Battle of Forge Haven, Amara stood in the rebuilt Galactic Council chambers and barely recognized the institution. The old hierarchy had collapsed under the weight of survival. Species that had spent centuries bickering over trade routes now coordinated military operations. Former enemies trained together, fought together, mourned their dead together. The human delegation has arrived, Ambassador Wren announced, his ancient face showing something that might have been satisfaction. Admiral Helen Park entered with General Aaron Stone, representing Earth's formal return to galactic affairs. Park carried herself with the same quiet competence Ross had shown, her silver hair and steady gaze commanding immediate respect. Members of the Galactic Council, Park's voice filled the chamber. Earth accepts the invitation to join this body. We offer our military expertise, our technological advancement, and our commitment to collective defense. In return, we ask for equal partnership, not worship. We're not legends anymore. We're just people who learned hard lessons. The vote was unanimous. Humanity took its place among the galactic community, not as saviors but as partners. Ross walked through Sanctuary Prime's Memorial District, reading names carved into black stone. 200,000 civilians, 15,000 military personnel. Killer's name stood among the honored dead, his sacrifice recognized by every species. Captain, Tyrell approached, his massive form somehow gentle in this place. My people are erecting a statue, a Methrian scientist and a human marine standing together. Would you attend the dedication? Yes, Ross touched Killer's name. He deserves that and more. The transformation spread across the galaxy. Peaceful species like the Methrians established defense forces, honoring their fallen hero. Warrior cultures like the Cortani integrated human tactical doctrine with their traditional combat styles. Research stations that once studied ancient ruins now analyzed harvester biology. preparing for the inevitable next encounter. Amara returned to archaeological work but found her perspective forever changed. The past wasn't just about discovery anymore. It was about understanding, learning, preparing. She documented the new era, the time when legends became teachers. On Forge Haven, the dedication ceremony drew representatives from 40 species. The memorial stood 3 stories tall, depicting Killer at a neural interface, his expression serene even in sacrifice. Beside the statue, walls bore 12,000 names of humans who died in battles across the galaxy. Ross read the inscription. They were legends once, now they are family. Wright stood beside her, his injuries from the Nexus boarding action healed but not forgotten. He'd retired from active service to teach tactics at the new multi-species military academy. His classes filled instantly, students eager to learn from someone who'd actually fought inside a Harvester bioship. "Do you think we made the right choice?" he asked quietly. "Coming back, I mean getting involved again." Ross watched the crowd, seeing humans mixing naturally with Valesians, Cortani, Methrians, and dozens of other species. Children of different worlds played together near the memorial, too young to understand the significance but old enough to know peace wasn't guaranteed. "Look at them," she gestured to the gathering. 6 months ago, half these species wouldn't have trusted each other enough to stand in the same room. Now they're building something new together. "Built on sacrifice," Wright observed. "All good things are," Ross replied. Rachel Kim emerged from the crowd, her engineer's coveralls replaced by formal attire. She'd been appointed to lead the Joint Engineering Initiative, combining human innovation with galactic resources. Her first project was designing ships that incorporated the best of both traditions. "Admiral Park wants to see you," Kim told Ross. "Something about a new assignment." Ross found Park in a quiet corner, away from the ceremony's noise. The Admiral's expression was serious. "The harvesters we destroyed were just one group," Park explained. "Intelligence suggests there are more swarms in unexplored space. Earth Command is establishing a permanent defense force, mixed crews, integrated tactics, forward deployment. I want you to command the first battle group." "Me?" Ross was surprised. "I violated protocols, ignored orders, nearly started a war without authorization." "You saved billions of lives and showed the galaxy that humanity stands with them," Park corrected. "That's exactly the kind of leadership we need. Will you accept?" Ross thought about the resilience, damaged beyond economical repair, she thought. About her crew, scattered to new assignments. She thought about Killer and all the others who'd given everything. "On one condition," she met Park's eyes. "Every ship in my battle group has mixed crews, human commanders, alien officers, integrated at every level. If we're doing this, we're doing it right." "Agreed," Park offered her hand. "Welcome to the Earth Galaxy Defense Force, Admiral Ross." The ceremony concluded with the lighting of memorial flames. Each species contributed fire from their homeworld, the flames merging into a single beacon. As darkness fell, the combined light illuminated the statue, casting long shadows across the memorial plaza. Amara found Ross standing alone after the crowds dispersed. The newly promoted admiral looked tired but content. "You started this," Ross said without preamble. "That archaeological dig on Terrelli's 9. If you hadn't found those records, hadn't convinced anyone to listen, we might have stayed hidden." "Would that have been better?" Amara asked. Ross considered the question seriously. "Safer, maybe. Better, no, we're not meant to hide. None of us are. That's what the harvesters taught us, whether they intended to or not." "What happens now?" "Now we build," Ross gestured to the stars above. "The harvesters will return eventually. They always do. But next time they won't face a divided galaxy. They'll face all of us fighting together, refusing to surrender." "That sounds like a legend," Amara smiled. "Maybe," Ross allowed. "But this time it's a legend we're all writing together." Above them, ships from a dozen worlds patrolled in coordinated patterns. Human frigates flew alongside Valesian scouts and Cortani cruisers. Their crews spoke different languages, came from different worlds, but shared a common purpose. Humanity had been reduced to legend, forgotten by a galaxy too proud to remember. But legends, it turned out, had power, not because they were myths, but because they represented hope. And when hope became real, when legends returned not to conquer but to teach, something remarkable happened. The galaxy learned to fight back. Ross watched the memorial flame burn, thinking of all who'd fallen to make this moment possible. Killer's sacrifice, her crew's dedication, the unnamed billions who died in the ancient war. "We'll remember," she promised them, "all of you, and we'll make sure your deaths meant something." The flame burned on, a beacon in the darkness, proof that some lights refused to be extinguished.